When I talk to traders all over the world, I can usually tell if they're going to be successful or not. And there's really one thing that both unsuccessful traders and successful traders have in common, and that is belief. You may be thinking, like, how can a successful trader and an unsuccessful trader both have belief in common? And the answer is belief is the starting point of achievement. Think about anything that you do in life. It starts with you first believing that it's possible for you to do that thing. It starts with you believing that it's possible to get good at a certain thing that would even make you attempt it. And if there's no belief, if there's no hope, then you won't even get started. Or when I talk about what makes people who quit the game and what do they have in common with successful people, is because at some point throughout their journey, they lost belief. I'm reminded of the John Mayer song. If you've never heard this song, it's a really good song to listen to. John Mayer has a song called Belief. And I pulled some of the lyrics from that song. And he says, belief is a beautiful armor, but makes for the heaviest sword. And so, like, when I listen to that and I think about, like, belief is the heaviest arm, like a beautiful armor, and makes for the heaviest sword. My interpretation of that is when you believe something, there is like nothing that can stop you from going after it. If you believe you're doing the right thing, if you believe something's going to change your life, if you believe this is going to cure you from an illness or a disease, if you believe, that is like the heaviest armor, or a beautiful armor, I should say, as he said, because think about armor. Armor is like, if a bullet hits you in our world, if you lose some money and it comes at you and kind of hits your armor, it's like, chink, I lost some money, but it like bounces off of you because you believe that you are on a path that things are going to get greater later. I think about when I first got started in the stock market, and I took my graduation money. I'm 18 years old. I take the $2,000 that I had from my open house from graduation, and I go down to that major bank and I open my first investment account. Why would I do that as an 18-year-old? Why didn't I go shopping? Why didn't I go buy some shoes or go party or something like that? It's because belief. I believe that finally I found an industry that could change my family's financial future, that could move us out of the neighborhood, that could, someday when I had kids, eventually change the trajectory of their life, because I made so much money in this industry that they live in a certain neighborhood, they can go to certain schools, they can experience certain things in life that I didn't want them to experience, that I went through, like the gangs, the drugs, cars being stolen, stuff like that. And so I believe so heavily that the stock market was the answer for me, that you couldn't tell me anything else. It was like, yep, take my $2,000. I was willing to let it sit for the next 40 years because that's what I initially thought I had to do. I thought, okay, you open an account with $2,000, you come back 40 years later, you're a millionaire. I eventually learned that's not how it works. But the point is, my belief made me take my last money as an 18-year-old and start that investment account. Now, when I come back 2 years later and they lost $1,300, if you know my story, if you don't, I tell the lady, like, what happened? I thought you come to the professionals because you don't lose money. She's like, I don't know what to tell you. When I took that $700, I said, you know what? I could have lost my own money. I'm going to do this myself. And I talked to a few people about that. I said, I don't know what made me say something like that. I'm like, was I cocky? Was I arrogant? Was it ego? But now that I sit down and I think about it, it wasn't cockiness. It wasn't arrogant. It wasn't ego. It was belief. I literally believed in myself, and I still believed in the industry, that I could make this industry work, and that it was still the key for me and my family. And so even after taking the $1,300 loss, I still believed that this was the industry. And then I switched my belief from being on someone else to belief in myself. And that's what I'm taking from John Mayer's line, belief is a beautiful armor, because I could have quit when the first chink in my armor got hit was like they lost $1,300. The second chink in my armor is like, whoa, the professionals lose money. So now who am I going to turn to? I could have said, this doesn't work. It's not for people like me. But I turned to myself because I truly believed that this was the answer to my dreams and goal. And when you think about like riding a bike or something like that, when people lose money in the stock market, sometimes they take that as a sign that like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe I'll never be good at this. But think about riding a bike. When you look at the process, you could even go back further than riding a bike and look at the process of a child walking. A child starts to crawl, then a child starts to pull up, and then that child may fall over several times, hit their head, bump their body, scrape their knees. No parent would ever say, you know what, walking isn't for you. You should just crawl for the rest of your life since you can't figure this out, since you failed a few times. We'd be like, no, you got this. You're so close. You're getting there. We'd be so encouraging to that baby. Why? Because you believe your baby should walk. You believe like if there's nothing wrong with the baby's legs, that yes, they will eventually get this. You go over to the riding a bike scenario. Same thing. You start off riding a bike with what? Probably training wheels, little helmet on. In the stock market, we equate that to practice trading or paper trading inside of a virtual account. Why? Why do you have the helmet on, the knee pads, and the training wheels? Keyword, training wheels. You're in training. You're trying to get the hang of it. And you got the pads and stuff on in case the bike tips over. You have something there that can protect you until you really get the hang of it. It's the same thing in the stock market, except sometimes we just want to come out the gate, put real money down. We don't want to take the time that it takes to practice and learn and be protected. And then if we fall off and scrape our knees, AKA we lose some money in the first or second trade, our armor gets a kink in it. And what could start to happen is you're letting go of that most important piece of why you started, which was belief. Your belief starts to get chiseled away at, and you start to say, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm good enough, smart enough. And same with riding a bike or walking. It's like it has nothing to do with being good enough, smart enough. It has everything to do with practice. It has everything to do with patience. It has everything to do with trying in a safe environment until you get the hang of it. And then eventually you're walking, you're running, you're riding bikes, you're riding them without training. Matter of fact, not only are you not riding with training wheels, you're doing wheelies, you're riding, sitting on the handlebars, and you can start to see it progressively. Life gets better from there. And that's the same thing with the stock market. You progressively start doing advanced options. You start looking at advanced technical analysis. And initially you may think you can never get there, but it starts with having that belief and then taking those baby steps. Baby step number one is what? Learning the fundamentals of the stock market, how to research a good company or a bad company. Baby step number two, you start to look at a chart, start to learn technical analysis, determine the best time to buy or sell. Then you start to graduate to step number three. How do I use options to protect myself if the market goes against me? How do I use options to supercharge my result? Then you start going to number three. How do I use advanced options to create strategies where I make money whether the market goes up or down? That's the equivalent to now you're popping willies on that bike, and you're so far gone from the days of training wheels and wondering if this was something that you could ever do. But here's what's important about walking, crawling, or riding a bike with training wheels to eventually maybe even riding a motorcycle someday. Typically, it took some time. It could be 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. But when you think about a baby that comes out, you need to be held, then goes to crawling, then goes to walking. It doesn't happen over like 2 weeks, 30 days, 60 days. But when we come to the stock market, though, it's like if we don't have a result in 30, 60 days, our belief starts to get really hammered away. One of the other quotes in John Mayer's song called Belief, again, go check that out, is one of my favorite songs. One of the lyrics in there towards the end, he says, "What puts 100,000 children in the sand? Belief can." Now, I feel like, what do you mean I'll explain that verse in a minute, at least my take on it. Then he says, what puts the folded flag inside his mother's hand? Belief can. Belief can. And so what he's saying, he's actually talking about war in that song. That song is really about war. And he's talking about what puts 100,000 children in the sand, people sending their kids off to war in times of war. He's saying, like, what can put 100,000 children in the sand, send them to Desert Storm, send them overseas to fight a war? Belief can. If they believe that they are fighting for their country, if they believe that what they're doing is right, they're fighting for freedom, they're fighting for liberty, they're fighting to help people that are marginalized, then people will go to the highest calling. And the highest calling is the second verse. What puts the folded flag inside his mother's hand? Basically, obviously, if you passed away from a war, they fold the flag up and give it to the mother. And so he's saying, what can make someone go risk their life? Belief can. And so it's super deep. It's super powerful when you really think about those verses. It's the same thing with the stock market, except we act sometimes as if losing money is the end of our life. That's not even close to someone who goes off to war and who might never come back. We're fighting a war of poverty. We're fighting a different kind of war, the war on poverty, the war to create a financial legacy for our kids, for our family, whatever the case may be. But we're fighting this war like sitting at a desk behind a computer, okay? Like there's no machine guns, no grenades, no landmines. And at the end of this war, if we don't, quote unquote, make it home, if it doesn't work out for us, the worst thing that happens is we lose a little money. We don't lose an arm. We don't lose a leg. You might have some PTSD, post traumatic trading stress syndrome, right? Because you might come away with a little stock market PTSD. And again, I'm not making fun of anybody who has PTSD. I know that's a real thing for people, for veterans and people who've gone off to war. I'm just trying to say, like, you might have the stock market version of that, where every time you go to push the button, you're a little bit scared now, you're a little bit nervous. It's traumatic because maybe you had an experience where you lost some money. But I'm just saying, this is one of the safest wars that we can fight, where the repercussions of not being right is really not that deadly, because you could always make some more money. Whereas people go off to war, can't get another arm, another leg, another life. And I'm just trying to make you think about how your belief should stack up when you really think about what we're going after and what you have to lose, which is maybe some money. And I don't want to make light of you losing money, because some of you, and a lot of us, we worked hard for our money. When the bank lost my $1,300, the first thing I thought was, I'm not about to graduate anytime soon. So where am I going to get another? Well, it was 2,000 total, but they only lost 1,300. I'm like, where am I going to get this money from again if they lose it all? Because I'm not about to graduate again. And so that was tough for me as an 18-year-old, saying like, wow, this is my life savings, and you guys just lost over half of it. But then when I pulled that money out and I went on to trade $700, I actually took 200, bought some gym shoes, and started trading $500. The next trade I did, I bought Sprint at $5, and Sprint immediately fell to $4. I was like, oh man, this doesn't work. And so again, that chink just hit my armor. But then I was like, no, I believe. I just got to understand, why did I buy Sprint at 5 and it fell to 4? And then it went back up to 5. I'm like, let's go. It fell back down to 4. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That was another chink in my armor. But I believed that I was going to get this. And when Sprint went back up to 5, I got out at break even. And then when Sprint fell down to 4, I got back in at 4, and then went up to 5. I got out. I made my first $100. What did that do to my belief? My belief went up. I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm finally seeing some results. But just imagine had I quit because the bank lost me my first $1,300. Just imagine if I had quit, if when I bought Sprint the first time, it fell down to $4 when I bought it at 5. And so John Mayer said it best. Belief is a beautiful armor, because that was the armor that I was wearing that kept me in the game. I'm like, I still believe this is the right industry. I'm in the right place. I just got to figure out how to make it work for me. And again, it's not a war where I can lose an arm or a leg or a limb. If I am right, if I figure this out and I win this war, we never have to worry about money again. And that's the war we're still fighting. We're fighting that war for all of our Power Trades University members. We're fighting that war for all our 5-Year Millionaire members. These are people who said, Jason Brown, you and your team, Power Trades University, 5-Year Millionaire, your programs, you guys are the people. You watching this YouTube video, you listen to this podcast, you guys are the people that raised your hand and said, because of you, I am starting to believe, or I believe that I can do this myself. I believe that your teaching, your coaching, your support, your community can help me get there. And so we're still fighting this war. We're fighting this war for our members, because our goal at the end of the day is that everybody who raised their hands and said, I believe I can do this, I believe your information can help me get there. We, and I say we, me, my team, our organization, we have a duty, at least that's my duty. One of my core values. It's like, not for me to get out of debt, not for me to pay off my house. It's for my students to experience paying off their house, getting out of debt, helping their family members, remodeling their homes, putting their kids through college without having to take out student loans. And so we're still fighting that war. And that's what keeps me going. Sometimes people say, if you make so much money in the stock market, then why do you teach it? And it's like that belief. It's that belief that we can help other people. This is not the time to go sit in the corner and be like, I'm doing okay, forget the rest of the world. It's that belief that we can take more people with us. It's that belief that 10, 20 years from now, people look back and say, where'd you get your start? And you'd be like, there was this guy, Jason Brown, the Brown Report, Power Trades University, 5-Year Millionaire. It was this guy, and it was a podcast. There was a YouTube channel. That belief is what makes me cut the camera on and record these videos, record this audio. That belief is what makes me take on the task of hiring a team, managing a team, trying to coordinate this information in a way that people can understand it, redoing courses, re-explaining it, doing workshops. That belief that we go help one other person who was like me, 18-year-old, just hoping that something would open up for him that could potentially change his life, that he could be passionate about. And maybe you're not 18, maybe you're 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, but the point is, you are most likely believing for something in your life that you hope can make a financial difference. And I believe that the stock market is one of those vehicles for you. But first, you got to believe in yourself. And then you got to believe, once you get the information, that you could utilize it in a safe way that can take you to where you need to be financially in your life with respect to the stock market. And even if you lost money before, I'm talking to all my people who blew up an account, who bought some stock and watched it go way up, and then watched that stock go all the way down. You got to put that belief armor back on. You got to put that belief armor back on, because that was just a little kink, a little chip in your armor. But when you got belief on that you wearing, there's very few things that could penetrate that belief unless you stop believing. And so as we wrap this episode up, I want to leave you with the words of another song. And this is a pretty popular song. Maybe you're familiar with it, maybe you're not. But I want to leave you with the words of Journey. And if you know the Journey song, it says, don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling. Now, I'm not going to try to sing it. I'm going to mess up your eardrums. It's like, don't stop believing. Hold on to, okay, I ain't gonna try to hit the note though, but he say, hold on to that feeling. So that's what I want you to take away from this. Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling. And I'll see you on the next episode. I'm signing off saying, remember, you never go broke taking a profit. Don't stop believing. I'll see you on the next episode. Maybe I should try to sing it. Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling, yeah. Street lights, people. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have sung it.